Kinesiology. So today I am going to talk about how I got into health kinesiology because it's quite niche. So people often wonder how I got into something like that. And basically, it was when I was on my year abroad, years and years ago, year abroad at uni. And during my second half, when I was in Spain, I started getting these really intense abdominal pains, really out of the blue. And I'm then thinking to myself, oh, have I done myself an injury? Have I eaten something dodgy? But it wasn't that kind of pain. It was a shooting, stabbing pain, like really acute. But the pain was so intense that I couldn't move, felt like I couldn't breathe because if I took too deep a breath, that would be quite painful still. So I'd just be a bit stuck there. And luckily it wouldn't last for hours and hours, but it was long enough to, scare you a little bit because it's random pain coming out of nowhere. And the first time it happened, I sort of thought, oh, that's really weird. And it passed and I didn't think it would happen again. But then it did the next day. And I was like, oh, this, not very good. And then it happened again. And by then, I'd started batting it away, thinking, oh, that'll go on its own, it won't happen again. And, clearly it wasn't going away because it kept happening. So I thought, right, well, I can't ignore it anymore. Need to find out what's going on, really. Because at that time, you don't know how serious or not anything is, do you? You just, get pain and you don't know where it come from. So anyway, as much as I was fluent in Spanish, I thought better to come to the doctors in the UK, because like following up and stuff, because I was coming towards nearer the end of my year abroad as well. So I flew back to the doctors and he initially diagnosed me with IBS, but he said, let's see what happens from tests. But the only thing that I remember that he said was that he said, oh, it can be caused by stress or triggered by stress. And I said, well, what have I got to be stressed about? I'm on my year abroad. I'm loving life. I was just like, what? And he also said, oh, it could be caused by too much fibre in your diet or too little. And I'm thinking, well, which one is it? Like, great idea, doc, thanks, but help. So I went away and I tried both diets and nothing worked. In the meantime, I was having multiple blood tests and it was all coming back clear. Stool sample clear, all the tests clear. So I was also actually trying different medications, obviously pain stuff, IBS type medications, and just nothing was working. And by this point, I had all sorts of bowel stuff going on as well. So along with the pain, and then I was getting cramping, and it was more of a longer pain period as well. So this was going on throughout most of the day at this point as well, rather than the shorter lasting acute pain. But yeah, so I was getting multiple symptoms now and just nothing was helping. And then the doctor had said, oh, well, the next stage is ultrasound, and paid for that privately because of the weight and obviously given how bad I was feeling at that point as well. And ultrasound came back fine. So it was sort of like, oh no, no tests are showing anything. So what is it? Because like I said, the doctor said IBS, but there wasn't really a lot of information out there and advice on what to do. So I was just thinking, oh great, I'm stuck with this. Anyway, the next step was going to see a gastroenterologist, so going to see a specialist, and they couldn't really give too much advice either, which was what I was hoping to come out of that appointment. And they confirmed the doctor's initial diagnosis of IBS, and I sort of was like, well, what about this symptom? What about that symptom? And he couldn't really tell me much. So I was a bit disappointed out of that. So you can imagine all this hope of a test showing something and then disappointment because there's no answers, and then hope of another test and then disappointment again because it didn't show anything. So going through all of that, so emotionally as well as all the stuff physically going on, I was really getting to my wits' end, obviously, as you can imagine, with it all. So anyway, I went to see back my normal GP, said to him, gastroenterologist has said IBS. So the doctor said, well, there's not much more, we can do test-wise other than then going down the route of an endoscopy. But he did say it's not very pleasant. So endoscopy, for those who don't know, is where they put camera down your throat. And he said if need be, they would take a biopsy of obviously my gut. So that was quite daunting, because then it was an invasive, a more of an invasive procedure than what I'd had. The only invasive one I would have had was a blood test. So I went away to think about that. And then I met an Australian lady and I was talking to her about the stuff I was going through. And she said, oh, that sounds like what I had a few years ago. She said, you must go and see a kinesiologist. And I went, what on earth is that? Because, it sounded like another language at the time. I'd never heard of the word before, didn't have a clue what it was. And she couldn't tell me too much about it, but she said, oh, I got tested for foods, and I thought, oh, brilliant, if they can do that for me, because I was trying to do a food diary and try and gauge what foods were causing me problems, and it just seemed to be everything. Same for clients I get in as well, I suppose. It seemed to be everything, when actually it wasn't. But anyway, I was a complete skeptic about holistic therapies, alternative therapies. I was always, Western medicine is the way, science will solve everything. And science is still amazing. I still think that, and Western medicine is incredible. Just wasn't helpful for me, unfortunately. And if I wasn't at that real point, I suppose, of desperation, really, I never would have been open enough to the idea of actually trying it. But this Australian lady, she said, oh, there's got to be one, close to you. Find a local one. So this was at my mum's at the time. I think it was summer break from uni. Anyway, found a local kinesiologist, and I thought, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I would have tried it, because I was so fed up just looking for any relief at that point. And from the first session, I just had so much relief that I was like, oh my God, this was here the whole time. And I've been suffering all the while when there was something that could actually help me. Obviously, in hindsight, I can say that. But like I said, I was really skeptical. So I don't think I would have been in the right mindset to try it before then. It was really a timing thing for me, that I had to be at that real end point of, being fed up. Anyway, so yeah, I had that first session, had so much relief, and I thought, well, brilliant, because I didn't really know what to expect out of it, to be honest. And had a few sessions with her, and yeah, I felt so much better. Anyway, we got to the point where I was feeling a lot better, but I said to her, I've still got a little bit of this symptom, a little bit of that symptom. And she was a bit stuck at that point. So anyway, I thought, okay, let's try another kinesiologist, because kinesiology has worked. And my dad was saying, oh, why don't we see if there's something down Harley Street, which, for those of you who don't know, Harley Street is a place in London Road where it's supposed to be the best of the best, dentists, cosmetic surgeons, all sorts of stuff. So anyway, managed to find a kinesiologist on Harley Street and went through sessions with her, and it wasn't as big of a oomph of improvement as I'd had from my first session with the other kinesiologist, but I was feeling better in myself. It was really smooth, and if I hadn't been looking back in hindsight, I would think, oh, nothing has changed. But yeah, improving really subtly. Anyway, followed through with treatment with her, and graduated from uni, luckily, because I don't think if it wasn't for kinesiology, I don't think I would have graduated from uni, because I was missing so much, from having to be near a toilet or being curled up in pain, or all of that kind of thing. And obviously when you're feeling so cruddy like that, as if I could concentrate on doing uni work, it was not going to happen. So yeah, thanks to kinesiology, I graduated from uni, and then you sort of wonder, well, what do I do with my life? And lady had said, oh, well, I teach as well. I've got a level 1 course starting in, I can't even remember what month it is now, whenever it was. So she said, I've got 2 places left, so feel free to join that. And I was sort of thinking, oh, she's only got 2 places left. But I felt really passionate about it because of the help it had given me. And it sort of felt right to take that step. And it was never anything I would have imagined doing as a career at all. Definitely wasn't where I saw my life going. But yeah, I went to the course, absolutely loved it. And I have to say, it was only then going to the course that sessions actually started to make sense, to be like, oh, that's what we were doing in a session. And it's, yeah, so it was only from learning it I could truly understand it. But yeah, followed it all the way through and completed my course, and here I am today as a, obviously fully qualified kinesiologist for quite some time. So that is my story of how I got into kinesiology, and the basis of my passion behind it and why I love it is because, I'm a living case, I suppose. Been through it, had it, and it helped me heaps. So there we go. That is my story.